20 minutes after 11. Good to have you with us on the Thursday edition of Newslink. I'm Gareth Edwards. Now, very long queues at Checkers stores over the weekend. People rushing, standing outside the closed doors, waiting for them to open just so they can get their hands on Prime. Well, the energy drink initially entered the market at a staggering 407 Rand per bottle, yet you still saw people driving around trying to find them. But a deal with influencers KSI and Logan Paul saw the retailers bringing it down to 40 Rand each. So I wonder how it plummeted so quickly as soon as a big brand got involved. Now, despite the high cost of living, here's why we're doing the interview. Many people seem to have no issue at all with shelling out for multiple bottles. So is this hype? Is there something we're not understanding? Luckily, we have an expert in this field. It's Tebogo Ditshego from Ditshego Media, of course, also the president of the Public Relations Institute of South Africa. And I have tried, morning, to not be a grumpy old man on social media. I do not get this. Is this just PR gold? Is this just PR diamond that has just been so successful that it's caught the entire world off guard?
Well, it seems like that at face value, but it's actually more deeper than that, because if you look at the brand of Prime, I think they've ticked most of the boxes. I mean, firstly, you need a very compelling promise, and they've made it. I mean, when you look at the ingredients in terms of the electrolytes and the low sugar, and then you also look at how the reviews have gone in social media, they've been very positive. Whether they are bought or not, we're not sure about that. But
so there's the question, isn't it?
There's the question. And then you have also the people behind the brand. So the credibility is also enhanced by them. Firstly, they've got a big reach. But secondly, as you know, Logan Paul is a boxer. And they've done pretty well, you know, in that realm. But also they've got a story behind them. You know, the antics that they've had on social media, the various campaigns that they've had. But I think now we're seing the power of social media.
Yeah, I think it is about the power of social media. And despite all of that, Logan Paul being a fighter and a boxer, etc., and I would understand them to be YouTube influencers as well. I didn't realize that for something that is a drink, to my understanding, it's all of the usual electrolytes and it's low sugar and caffeine and all that. I can probably name off the top of my head about 10 of these brands that do that. Why did this one stand out? It can't just be because they were popular before. Red Bull, I have to use the brand to make my point. Red Bull have been around for so long. They even have a Formula One team. They do aerobatics. They do World Championship breakdancing. I can go on and on and on. How did Prime manage to get this right and even overtake something like Red Bull, the juggernaut in this sector?
So that's a brilliant segue. If you look at Red Bull, when they were doing marketing research on Red Bull, the people who were tasting the brand said it tasted terrible. But if you look at Red Bull, it's about the story. You know, all of the athletes taking part in extreme sports, overcoming your fears. There's a story behind the brand. The same applies to Prime. And it's almost similar, because Logan Paul and his brother and his associates have been also participating in extreme sports. And the inspiration isn't just to go and bungee jump or do, you know, skydiving. The inspiration is that you've overcome your fear. So I think what we're seeing now is the power of the story behind the brand.
It's almost the Nike just do it. You're buying into the lifestyle, aren't you? That's what you're doing. If you seem to be wearing that particular brand, you seem to be as outward, active, just doing it. I suppose it leads in very nicely, doesn't it?
It leads in brilliantly, because if you look at Nike, you'll never see them promoting particular shoes, but you do see them celebrating great sports athletes and people.
Tiger Woods, Usain
Michael
Bolt,
Jordan.
I'm curious though, where did the bubble burst, do you think? Because the prices were, as I mentioned, 407 or 470 Rand. I mean, we were seeing people overseas, South Africans, over in different countries bragging on social media that they found Prime, and we had people standing in queues, driving around trying to find this stuff. Regardless of the price, regardless of many people not having money, they were still finding 400 odd Rand to buy a bottle of this. Where did the bubble burst though? When Checkers came in? Because how did we go from 400 to suddenly a mass superstore like Checkers comes in, a mass supplier, and suddenly we've dropped, what is it, almost 90%?
So important also in marketing is not only the story, not only the product and the credibility, but the distribution. and you have to understand the customer base and their ability to afford your products. So I think it was more of a last-minute decision to say, but this is a third world country, and the buying power is at this rate. But I think what's interesting about South Africa at a macroeconomic level is that we have a very interesting consumer base, because consumers in South Africa spend about 70% of their income on consumer goods. And so we have a huge market in terms of people who have an appetite to buy these products.
How much of this do you think was social media hype, though, that pushed that price up? I mean, really, how much of it do you think was the youngsters sitting on TikTok and Instagram and all the other platforms as well, wanting to be cool, wanting to be seen with it? I mean, how did I want to call it the snowball effect of social media play in, A, on the price and then the growth of the brand? It is a success story. I'm not trying to disparage the brand. It's brilliant. I couldn't believe the tidal wave of interest. Yeah. But how much of that was social media driven? Definitely
more than 80%. If you look at social media usage in the US, where Logan Paul is based, that's a juggernaut of a market. But also you've got KSI, who's in the UK, and you've got a lot of South Africans who are staying in the UK. So that connection is quite obvious that it would leapfrog from the UK to South Africa. So I think it was more than 80% social media, but also the tactics around it, the story behind it, and the distribution was solid.
I imagine that bubble has burst now for them. They've made their money. It's out there as well. I don't imagine they can try a second wave of social media antics to try and push the price up and demand up. I think has the bubble burst, or am I being once again pessimistic?
No, you're correct. So launching a product is just like a spacecraft. It needs to be very powerful. It needs to go really high, and it needs to make an impact. So the beginning is very important, and it's more about awareness. But as you move forward, I think what's important in what you're saying is the strength of the brand. So it's going to be looking at the juxtaposition between the promise and the delivery. So if it delivers on the promise, then it can have sustainability.
And just last before I say goodbye to you for the moment then as well, Tebogo, is what are other brands? Let's say, for example, a young entrepreneur starting a business, they want to try and get some sort of hype like this. They're not Logan Paul, they're not KSI, they had that reach already, but they would like to use social media to try and promote whatever they're doing, whatever it might it is that they're building, creating, selling. How do you try and do this and actually get the reach that you're hoping for? Because my understanding is you also need a bit of money on social media to actually get the reach, all due to algorithms and Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg. You can't just tweet it and expect people to see it.
Yeah, because you've got competition.
Correct.
So you have to know the difference between a company and a brand. Anyone can go and register a company, but a brand has a specific reputation. So it's known for a specific service or a product, and you need to build that brand. And if you understand that philosophical underpinning, then you can be successful. You need to partner with people. You need to have associates. You have good brands that create great products and produce good services, but unfortunately they don't have strong associations. So you want strong associations, you want good reach. You want to make sure that what you're delivering has integrity. Basically, you're delivering on your promises. And then you want to make sure that you're also creative in the process.
Last question. Let me ask this. I'll leave this as really my last question. Were parents duped by their kids because of it? I felt they were. I know a couple of people that I follow on social media, and some of them are even journalists, and they were posting photos of their kids with Prime. And I was like, come on, you must be joking. Did we get duped?
All of your questions make you seem like a brand expert, because all of the segues are actually relevant. The kids have a very powerful role to play in the success of a marketing campaign. And that is why a lot of people don't even do market segmentation, and they don't rely on that on its own, although it can be very powerful. But you could segment your market and say, I'm going for 30 to 40-year-olds, but if the kid knows about it, they could have reached to the parent. So the kids had a very big role to play.
Yeah, I remember this back in the day. It was who has the buying power in the house, A, and then more importantly, who has the wallet in the house. The kids have the buying power these days. Mom and dad have to pay for it.
Absolutely.
Did you buy it? Have you tried it?
No, not yet. They have been quite busy.
Been quite busy. Not going to go stand in a queue looking for a bottle of energy drink. Absolutely. As good as the market was. Tebogo, thank you for coming in. I appreciate the stats and the numbers on it. It just shows how influential social media is. Did you feel duped? Did you feel it was worth it? Have you even tried it? If you have, please, I'd love to hear from you. You can tweet us at eNCA. You can also tweet me directly. Maybe we can take that conversation forward. Did you buy Prime? Was it worth the hype? Maybe you feel bad that you spent 400 Rand If you'd waited a couple of weeks, now it's only 40 Rand. I'd love to hear from you at eNCA, or you can tweet me at Gareth Edwards SA. Maybe we can take that conversation forward. Thanks to Tebogo Ditshego, always making time for us. Chief Executive Officer of Public Relations Agency, Ditshego Media, of course, and more importantly for this discussion, President of the Public Relations Institute of Southern Africa.